private individual or a taxpayer will question the legality and constitutionality of this law, and this is it. And this is what we really expected. And so perhaps this is high time for the High Court really, if I may, with all due respect, to settle once and for all whether with the power of Congress to extend the term of office of barangay and SK officials carries with it the power to likewise postpone an election. Does it rest on the Comelec solely, or can that be done likewise by our Congress? Of course, in the past, there were already several postponements and there were also questions before the Supreme Court. But perhaps this is the best time that the Honorable Supreme Court will settle once and for all the issue, as well as an interpretation of the provision of the Constitution, more particularly Mamenchu, Article 10, Section 8 of the same. We will have the same position as that of Atty. Macalintal if I am still a practitioner. But of course, at present, being the chairman of the Comelec, we really recognize the power of Congress. When we participated in the deliberation of Congress, when it was deliberating on the passage of the bill postponing the election, we participated, we recognized such power, we recognized such wisdom and exercise of discretion of Congress. And so it stands now, because there is now a law, there was formerly a bill and there is now a law, kinikilala pa rin po namin ang kapangyarihan ng Kongreso. And that power remains until, of course, the Supreme Court will say otherwise. But the power to extend the term of the SK as well as the barangay officials rests on Congress because it is provided for by the Constitution. The Supreme Court might take cognizance of the case immediately, and hopefully the Supreme Court will, today is the en banc session day of the Supreme Court, and perhaps the Supreme Court will deliberate on the matter immediately so that the issue will not be left hanging. Sa part po ng Comelec, Mamenchu, napakahirap din sa kalagayan namin because when the President signed the bill the other week, we suspended some of the preparations, most especially the printing of the ballots, because in the first place, gusto rin naman natin ma-preserve din yung quality ng ballot. At the same time, we would like to change also the template of the ballot. So we suspended. Likewise, yung iba namin suppliers po kasi ay nag-back out na doon sa kanilang contract in the meantime o doon sa offer nila sa amin, simply because it's too early to make some deliveries or to pursue with the procurement. So medyo may problem din kami. And hopefully the Supreme Court will be able today to resolve on the matter. Because for legal purposes, ma'am, of course, Atty. Macalintal definitely perhaps is asking likewise the Supreme Court to issue a restraining order, status quo ante order. And so that is what we are waiting today, whether the Honorable Supreme Court will immediately dismiss the petition or give due course to the petition or give into the request of Atty. Macalintal to issue a TRO or status quo ante order. All of these things are possible today.
Okay.
And then I brought up this idea as to what if the Honorable Supreme Court will issue a temporary restraining order, status quo ante order, as against the law postponing the election. What should we do? What are the particular election paraphernalia which were put on hold, the delivery of which or procurement, and what will happen to our printing of the ballots? We were able to print before we suspended the printing of the ballots at least 10 million ballots, 8 million for the barangays and 2 million for the SK. Can we still proceed with the printing, and we still have time? So we will be able to answer that, Ma'am Menchu, at least this afternoon, because I directed all our personnel in charge to make a report to this representation today, this afternoon, and hopefully we can also have a news as to what the Supreme Court had done with the petition of Atty. Macalintal by that time. So which provide that the election for Barangay and SK should be on December 5, 2022. We have the mandate and the duty under the Constitution to proceed with the election no matter what, as provided for by the law as prescribed by Congress. On the procurement stage, we are still procuring certain election paraphernalia such as indelible inks and pen. We already have awarded certain contracts to certain suppliers, and at the same time, we have an ongoing procurement process. And we were about to sign several contracts in the next few days pertaining to the delivery of election paraphernalia. So we did not stop po. We still proceeded. Kaya lang po yung iba kasing suppliers, like suppliers ng papers, dahil ini-import pa nila yan abroad, So nag-put on hold po muna sila because of the uncertainty as to whether what if we are not going to proceed the printing in the meantime of the ballots. And then we will not immediately take in the paper. So there will be a problem. So, but immediately I told the official responsible for this procurement to immediately communicate with the suppliers that in the event that the Supreme Court will issue a temporary restraining order, a status quo ante order, we have to be very prepared, and we have to immediately ask the suppliers to make available all of these supplies.
So what
Yung whether to postpone or to proceed by August last week. And then by dumating yung September, sabi namin sana naman before the end of September maging maliwanag. And here comes October. So alam niyo naman po ma'am, even in all organizations, kapag napupush yung mismong holding of an activity or event, medyo yung quality ng preparation ay hindi rin po nagiging maayos at maganda, simply because it's not only the commission election that will be undertaking certain activities, kahit po yung mga suppliers namin at yung mga other parties na may kausap kami and kakontra. So dahil din po doon, because this will practically involve certain amount of money, they will have to import, they will have to rent the warehouses, etc. So medyo may problem po na kami ng konti. But of course, again, we did not stop with our preparation, but just the same, there will be some problems when it comes to the fullness of such a preparation, of the quality of our preparation.
All right, we'll be
elections. And during that particular meeting, because the commissioners and I were not present during that meeting, we really mentioned that there will be an additional 10 billion pesos in case the barangay and SK election will be postponed by next year, especially on October of 2023. However, of course, the Honorable Good Senator strongly disagreed with the computation. And so she required us to reevaluate and to determine whether that should really be the exact computation. Yesterday, we submitted, likewise, we offered a 4 billion additional budget. Instead of 10 billion, we said that we'll not proceed with this activity, we'll not proceed with this one, we'll not procure this one. And of course, all will be dependent on the number of voters that will be registering from November to May, because definitely we will be again opening up the registration of voters, the continuing registration from the last week of November to the last week of May next year. So it will depend on the number of voters that will be registering. But of course, we submitted the amount, but still there are certain documents being required of us by the committee of the Honorable Marcos. So we were able to submit that yesterday, and hopefully we can proceed. We are pleading that we can proceed already with the hearing of our budget.
Okay.
Our original computation was 5 to 7 million, but of course we lowered the estimate because baka naman napakataas naman ng aming ambisyon na 5 to 7 million. Likewise, instead of a 400 voters per precinct, we said perhaps we can do a 600 voters per precinct. Sa automated election po, meron tayo ma'am na average na 800 voters per precinct. So in order to limit the number of precincts, kasi po ngayon presently for the Barangay and SK election of 2022, supposedly by December, we only have 199,000 precincts. Our estimate was before in the 10 billion additional amount, hopefully maka-ano po kami 239,000 precincts. But as of yesterday, we were able to lower that to about 26 to 28,000. So that will practically lessen the expense. And as of last night, or maybe about 5 to 6 o'clock, we submitted a 2.7 billion additional budget for BSK.
Okay.
KE. Ang dami na po namin tinanggal mga additional items.
Kasi historically, mas mababa.
For example, we have presently 67 million voters, and because of there will be a surge in voter registration. So our anticipation is madami pong mag-18 years old, madami pong mga deactivated na magpapa-reactivate, at take note po yung SK po natin, from 14, madaming mag-P15, and so ganun po kalaki yung maaaring magpa-register. Pero yung voters turnout, definitely, based sa ating, if previous elections were to be the basis, lagi po mababa ang barangay and SK election.
So what if...
alam naman po natin in the conduct of the election, the resources will be very, very important on how we mobilize people, on how we procure election paraphernalia, and how we operate and manage the conduct of the election. So medyo mahihirapan po kami in a very, very tight budget
All right.
situation.
Well,
ma'am.
you originally
Allocate na po yun. May mga pagbabayaran na po. Of the 8.5 billion pesos for the information of the public, 5.7 billion pesos po yung pang-honoraria sa mga guro natin, sa mga electoral board members natin. And so in the event that the Supreme Court will still uphold the holding of the election by next year instead of December 5. So there will be a continuing appropriation. It will be in the hands of the Commission on Election. So whatever is left will be carried over for the next year's polls. Of course, yung mga nabili na namin na andyan na, yung mga na-print namin na andyan na rin po, itutuloy na lang namin po lahat. And then kung ano man po yung dagdag, that will maybe the subject of a supplemental appropriation later.
All right. Thank